and all of these feelings is because they're lacking the presence of Jesus. And so anxiety happens, and the Bible says when they did not find him, verse 45, they returned into Jerusalem and searched for him. Verse 47, and it happened after 3 days. How many days?
3.
How many days of journey did it take? How many days of journey did it take them to go to where they were going? They were 1 day in. When did they find him? 3 days, right? Verse 47. 3 days? Just put a pin right here. When you lose sight of the presence of God, it takes you longer to find it. I want you to know they were traveling with their friends and relatives, so they supposed that they were traveling with their friends and relatives, so they were supposing that Jesus was there with their friends and relatives. That's a caravan. In other words, my last name is Matt Ennis. When we travel in a caravan, all the Matt Ennis family would travel together. So I would suppose that because my last name is Matt Ennis, that Jesus will be found in that. So I don't have to look for Jesus because I'm comfortable with the people that are surrounding me. And so they were traveling in a caravan. This is Mary and Joseph, the people who had already known about the prophecy that had came out of Mary. They knew that Mary was the mother of Jesus Christ. How couldn't Jesus be in the caravan? How couldn't Jesus be in the acquaintances of their friends and their relatives? How couldn't Jesus be in the place when they trusted the most? And so the caravan not only just dealt with friends and family, the caravan also dealt with, in other words, if I was a child, I didn't travel with my mom. All the children within the caravan traveled together. And the adults on another side. So they trusted because of the protection of the caravan that Jesus would be there. And so it took them 3 days now. They realized Jesus is not with me. They turn back around and says, in 3 days they now come back to Jerusalem. They're looking for Jesus now. And I can tell you, once you lose sight of Jesus Christ, it takes you a long time sometimes. It takes double the amount of time. They lost him in a day. They now have 3 days they've been without him. Travel back to Jerusalem, we find Jesus, and I'm wrapping up in a few minutes because I have one point to this sermon, just one simple point. They come back to Jerusalem where Jesus is, and they find Jesus in the temple doing what? Teaching. Now, what does that have to do with Jesus? Alumni weekend is over. The praise and worship is over. Everything is over. Why is Jesus now sitting in the temple? Actually, before he was teaching, the passage paints a beautiful picture. He was listening. It was an interaction that was going on between the Pharisees. Now, what's interesting about this is that you must know that at this time, these were the same people who were going to crucify him and not listen to him when he got older. So this was a appointed time now because children soften our hearts. Let's be honest. If a child came to me and said, "Lord, don't do that," I'll be more likely to listen to a child than the older person who came up to me and said this. So now there's a appointed time when Jesus is 12 years old. They take more caution, or they listen to him more now than they would when he turned 30 and started his ministry. So now the Father now is very particular in making sure that Jesus now talks to the Pharisees. The God of Ages paints a picture that Jesus wanted to plant a seed in their heart now so that it can grow, so that when they saw him in the future, that they would know who he was. That they wouldn't have any question now of who he was. So Jesus is sitting here now having a conversation with them, answering questions because they had a school. And everybody who was a boy by the age of 12 was supposed to be in this school. And his parents had wished that Jesus would be in this school. So his parents shows back up on the scene. What do they see Jesus doing? Yeah, they see him sitting in the temple. He has to sit in the temple. Mary comes up to Jesus, and what does Mary say? Y'all know the story. Why have you treated us this way? Her question is a matter of why, but she's actually asking a question of a matter of feeling. Why did you make me feel this way? If you want to go to the Greek, that's her question. Why am I feeling this way about you? I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest for a lot of parents. That's your question. Why y'all make me feel you make me mad? You make me upset. When parents ask you questions, it's a matter of feeling. I didn't expect to feel like this about you. You're my child. So the ownership now is sitting on who she is to him. I'm the mother. We're the parents. You're the child. Why do you make me feel this way, Jesus? What are you still doing here? So, what does Jesus answer? I'm about my Father's business. So at this moment, we see that Jesus understands the difference between his two fathers. And not so much that he does not give respect and honor to his parents, but what he does understand, because what you do see, before you shout on that, where does Jesus go after this whole situation is over with in verse 51? He goes back down to where? Okay, so don't get this thing twisted. Jesus goes back down to Nazareth with his parents, who now is asking questions about who he is. So he submits himself back to his parents, although they're not really sure. But he now asks a question that's a teaching moment for his parents. So he asked a question, and this is the question that's asked to all of us, because there are two types of people here. You're either Pharisee or Mary. I'm going to break that down, and that's my appeal. Two types of people in the room, Pharisee or Mary. Mary is his mom, and she was given prophecies about Jesus. An angel of God showed up to her about Jesus. She was taught about who he was, and now at this moment, Mary now is asking, why do you make me feel like this? Jesus is essentially trying to point out to Mary, I wasn't expecting you not to know who I was. Not you, Mary. The angel showed up from on high. Not you, Mary. Anna and Simeon in the sanctuary right before I was 12, prophesied over me. Not you, Mary. Why should you ask me about who I am? You're my mom. You were given direct assignment from God to watch over me. Not you, Mary.
Wow.
Mary was entrusted with Jesus. Mary knew the truths of Jesus. She knew the prophecies of Jesus. Mary knew everything. She probably didn't understand everything, says the Bible, when you continue, that she didn't understand. So her lack of understanding produced this situation at this current moment. So her lack of understanding, she knew a lot of things, but she didn't understand truly who her son was, and that he had a mission to go to the cross. And so we find Jesus here. He's talking to his parents in the most respectful way, because Jesus honors his parents. He goes back down to Nazareth in verse 51. He's talking to his parents, and in the end, what happens? Jesus goes back with his parents, and he said, why were you searching for me? Didn't you know that I must be about my Father's business? They didn't understand the sayings which he spoke to them. That's very baffling for me, that his parents didn't understand the sayings which he spoke to them, and they were entrusted with the knowledge of him. I would expect it to come from the Pharisees, not Mary and Joseph. So what's my point? Preacher, what's your point? It's about your time. You're right. So time is about up. Here's my 3 points for you all. Number one, when you lose sight of Jesus, it's going to take you longer to find him. Number two, we as a people of Oakwood, we are entrusted with the truths of who Jesus Christ is. You are entrusted. That's what the angel said. They took it for granted. They were entrusted with who Jesus was. In other words, the angel comes out and says, listen, I'm going to put Jesus in your house, in your room. You're entrusted with him. And now when Jesus is about his Father's business, they ask, who are you? Why do you make me feel this way? If they would have stayed focused and meditated on the reasons why they were actually parents, the reasons why their calling was to be parents and to entrust themselves into them, they would have never forgotten that Jesus' mission was to now what he was doing right now. Simple appeal, simple appeal. My appeal for you today is this. There are people who are entrusted with the truth